Welcome back to Maple's World of Curiosity. Today I'm teaching you about something really important in Canadian history: how life in New France connects to the lives of later settlers and newcomers who came in the 1800s and 1900s. These stories happened in different centuries, but they're deeply linked. I love when things connect like that. So, how did it all begin? Well, let's start in the 1600s and early 1700s. In New France, French colonists lived along the St. Lawrence River. Their land was divided into long strips called seigneuries, and families, called habitants, built wooden homes, farmed wheat, peas, and corn, and worked together all year. Everyone had a job. Kids collected firewood, women cooked and sewed, and men handled heavy building and woodcutting. So it was really a teamwork kind of life. Exactly. And that teamwork continued centuries later. When settlers arrived in Upper Canada in the 1820s and 1830s, they also had to clear thick forests, build log cabins, and plant crops. Neighbors helped each other raise barns and harvest, just like the habitants. So even though the time periods were different, the struggle to build a life was pretty similar?
Absolutely. The same challenges, just different generations. Now, here's another big connection. Both groups brought strong cultural traditions with them. In New France, people celebrated Catholic feast days, told French legends, and mixed French traditions with Indigenous ideas and skills.
And later settlers did that too, right? Like Irish and German families bringing their own celebrations? Yes. Irish settlers built Catholic churches and celebrated St. Patrick's Day. German settlers brought festivals and foods. Later, immigrant neighborhoods like Chinatown and Little Italy added even more diversity with new music, festivals, and foods. So communities weren't just being built physically, they were being built culturally too? Exactly. One of the most important connections between these two time periods is the relationship with Indigenous peoples. In New France, French settlers depended on indigenous nations like the Huron-Wendat, Algonquin, and Innu for survival. They learned how to hunt, fish, use canoes, and make snowshoes. Many French traders even married indigenous women, forming Métis families. So the early colony wouldn't have survived without indigenous knowledge. Exactly right. But later on, didn't relationships change? They did. Settlers in the 1800s and 1900s still learned from indigenous peoples. But as more newcomers arrived, conflicts grew. Some settlers moved on to indigenous land without permission. Farm animals damaged indigenous crops, and systems like residential schools caused terrible harm. So the interactions included cooperation and conflict. Yes, and understanding both sides is key to understanding Canadian history. Both groups also changed the land in major ways. In New France, forests were cleared to create farms along the rivers. Later, newcomers built roads, bridges, railways, and whole towns, reshaping rivers and wildlife habitats. Were those changes always positive? Not always. Some changes supported growth, but others caused harm, like forcing people off their land or destroying communities, such as Africville in Halifax. So even improvements had consequences. Exactly. When we look at all of this together, Canada became a place where many cultures blended: French, Indigenous, and later newcomers from Europe, Asia, the Caribbean, and beyond. So New France kind of set the foundation? Yes. The early relationships, traditions, and community structures influenced how later settlers built their own lives. And everything kept evolving as more people arrived.
Exactly. A long, complex story of people building homes, forming relationships, learning from each other, and sometimes facing conflict.
And that's how life in New France connects with later settlement in Canada. It's all one long story of change, culture, and community. Thanks, Maple. I learned so much today. Me too. Can we do another history episode soon? Always. See you next time on Maple's World of Curiosity. Also, if there is anything you are interested in learning about or you want a special shout out, make sure to get your teacher to fill out the form in the description below.